Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Kim Duramo. I am super excited for this interview today with one of my very best friends, Jamie Kagianaris. Jamie is a period powerhouse and a menstrual mystic. She has for decades studied about womb wisdom, the power in the feminine body, the power that we have access to that so many of us have learned to shut down, for the purpose of assisting healing, assisting expansion, assisting full aliveness and great awakening. I've been really excited to share Jamie with the world for years, with all of the conversations we've had and how she's shared this work with me and the insights and the amazing sort of untapped power that we have. And she has now this year created her signature course in flow. Her website is Period Love, but this course is called In Flow, and it's about tapping into that infinite wisdom in our body. So if you are so fortunate to be living in a female body, really just it's just hang on, because it is so powerful what Jamie's work has opened me to. And every time we meet, it's total magic. And I'm so glad this woman is in my life. But the wisdom that she has shared is truly revolutionary. And I'm super excited to be sharing it for the purpose of assisting women in healing, with physical healing, and also all of the amazing gifts that are available to us. So I am super excited to be introducing Jamie and have her share about her work here with us.
Thank you, Kim. I'm so excited to be here. So I love talking about periods. I'm so excited that I get to do it with you, one of my favorite people ever, and my favorite topic. It's a dream come true.
Well, I know for most women, having our period, you know, it's this curse, it's this bad thing. Oh my God, I have my period, or I'm dreading, I'm gonna get my period. And even like before it comes, there's this dreadful period before. So for many women, they have not only this really painful, horrific period part of their month, but they have the before and then they have the after. And then it's like, well, don't you just have a few days a month that are not related to that? So life is kind of like, being a female is such a nightmare. Being a cyclic being is a nightmare. And it's really such a lack of understanding about what being feminine really is that creates so much of that. So I am excited to have you share and release a lot of those programming and those myths with our listeners today.
Well, what you're saying is exactly right. And what I found with some of my friends, you know, they practice a lot of self-love or mind-body connection. So they're practicing self-love from a mind-based place, maybe mantras or positive affirmations, or like changing the way they think about things. They're practicing self-love from a heart-based place, you know, maybe doing yoga or koya, or, you know, practicing opening their hearts. And no one's ever said to them, do you practice self-love from a womb-based place? Because even my friends that I noticed, or some of the most enlightened women that I knew, still had this disdain, practicing all of these different things, these different practices, and then going, oh, my period's here. That means I can't go swimming. I can't wear that, you know, outfit to whatever party that I was going to, or I can't have sex with my boyfriend. So there's this systemic and unconscious, sometimes conscious, but disdain for our bodies, our most feminine centers, that we are so conditioned to think is normal that even when we're practicing deep self-love, we don't realize that we're hating this part of ourselves every month or more, you know, sometimes for days and days a month, like you said. So I found this so shocking, is when I started to understand womb wisdom. It's like, whoa, it's revolutionary to start thinking about, okay, let's move these practices down even more into the womb and start really noticing what we say to ourselves.
Yeah, I've seen that massive difference too, when I've asked women to be in their body, to feel their body, and dip down beyond below the head and come into your heart, and then come even down below and come all the way into your pelvis. Mm-hmm. How much it brings up. It's insane how much energy has been suppressed in this area of our body. And then women will be like, wait a minute, really? Is that okay? Shouldn't I just be in my heart? Is it really okay to embody my whole body and to feel what's going on in my pelvis? And there's a lot of fear that comes up, because that's what so much is what's been suppressed. But then there's also like this discomfort of like, whoa, am I allowed to do this? Mm-hmm. Because it's so unfamiliar for us to just embody our own bodies.
100%. 100%. And one thing I like to do, actually, meditation I like to do, is like, let's say I'm struggling with something. Like, I'll give you an example of last year. There was a second women's march that was happening in Los Angeles. And the first one was so successful and everyone was talking about the second one. And I thought I really should go. I really should go. And I wasn't really feeling like it, but I asked my head, like, should I go to the Women's March? My head was saying, yes, everyone's going to ask you about it at work. You're going to want to say you went. You're going to want to be a part of it. Remember how great it was and how empowered you felt. So then I dropped down into my heart. Should I go to the Women's March? Well, you're actually kind of tired. It would be amazing to spend time with friends, but you're starting your period tomorrow, maybe not. And then I dropped down into my womb. Should I go to the Women's March? No. It was like 3 different voices in my head, all myself. But like when I got to the heart and then the womb, it was like, boom, no. Check in, doesn't feel good. The answer is no. So that's a meditation that can help women to start to attune to this part of the body, is like, and be gentle, because this is not so familiar to us, asking this part of the body. So go slowly, but you can start by asking a question. How do I feel about this? Ask your head. How do I feel about this? Open your heart. Ask, how do I feel about this? Drop into womb-based place and listen.
Do you feel like, Jamie, most women can tune in to their womb and have that awareness, or like, are there other things that come up first to be cleared, or is there a way to approach it that like really helps that part of us open up?
I'm glad you asked, because it took me a really long time, years, to be able to hear that voice in my womb. And so the practice that I mentioned is a way to start slowly practicing that. But what one of my teachers said, because basically I can tell you my background too, but I studied with lots of different womb shamans, and I actually did a womb shaman training course for a year. And so in this course is where I learned this trick. And I said to a teacher, I said, I'm asking my womb and I'm not hearing anything.
Yes. And that's so common.
And one of my teachers said, it's like a cave where this big mystical creature lives inside of it. Every day, if you go and put food outside of the cave, eventually that mystical creature is going to come eat. So just put the food out and trust. And however long it takes, for that mystical creature, that beast inside of you, like I say beast in like a positive way, like this source, this energetic creature wants to come eat and, be part of this conversation, then it will. So I always had this vision of exactly that, and then would just trust. When I asked that, I was putting food in front of the cave and waiting for this part of myself to reawaken. So I would just say, be patient. And I'd give the same advice. Just show up, keep asking.
Yes.
With patience, love and kindness, and curiosity.
Because the curiosity of, I wonder what I'm feeling in this part of my body, or put your hand right on your pelvis and bring sensation to that area, and asking the question, what am I feeling here? But just being in the stillness of receptivity instead of the digging of, I haven't heard anything.
Yes, exactly.
In that, being patient, listening, asking, being present, and feeling, like actually being willing to feel the sensations in this area of the body. It's totally crazy that we've shut down just freaking having that sensation. Yes. And then, we can't have orgasm, or we don't know, do I really like this guy? Do I not? Or should I do this? Should I do that? Because we've shut down our own sensation, let alone that wisdom to guide everything, to ask, what's the right choice for me here? What will create the most in my life? And consulting this part of our wisdom.
Right. But I think this has all happened intentionally. And the reason that I think that is because when women don't trust their bodies, they don't trust their feelings. When women don't trust their feelings, they don't trust their voices. And when women don't trust their voices, they don't need to be silenced because they silence themselves. So this is a purposeful shutdown of the most feminine center of women's bodies, so that we silence ourselves. We second guess, we get caught up in the, am I worth it? When you start to tap into womb wisdom and you start to tap into this really powerful, feminine, creative center, even if you've had a hysterectomy, like that powerhouse is still there, you start to trust your feelings, you start to trust your voice, you start to trust your body, and a whole new world can open up. It really is an access point for feminine power and spirituality.
Yes, it's our connection with divinity. And this is where, it's kind of funny how we've missed it, but this is where the divine comes into the world of humanity, comes into the physical world we're in.
Exactly.
Is through birthing a child. Every being on the planet, every human has come through a womb.
Exactly. So ancient cultures, this is also something we're not taught in history class, is that for tens of thousands of years, that women were revered and the goddess was the divine source of life. And basically what the ancients believed was that all life was coming around them through the womb. You know, all life was being nurtured and cared for by the feminine. And so therefore, wouldn't the creator also be feminine? And so they believed that women were so close to the creator because they had this portal which souls came through. They're literally the portal between the physical and spiritual realm. And so they were revered, and the womb was revered as this like amazing mystical place accessible to the spirit world and the physical world.
And it's still there, just in this really thwarted way. Like, what do guys want more than anything in the world is to get inside a woman. Like, right. But right. It's in a really thwarted way that is disconnected instead of the honoring the divine in us and then having the privilege of presencing a woman intimately. That is the closest we come to our divinity. I mean, that our sexual union is the closest experience we can have to divinity. But then we've been in this culture that's really suppressed it and made it wrong and made it bad and made it shameful and disconnected us from it. And then had women disconnect from themselves. Like, oh, it's bad. Don't touch yourself. Don't feel pleasure. Don't love your body. Mm-hmm. Like, how messed up has that been? And then we're all lost and we're all disconnected from source. Mm-hmm. And then we're all like, we don't know what to do. What should I do? What should I eat? Who should I marry? What should I do for my job? We think we don't know, but right. We have the access to know. And this portal, like, what if we could reconnect back to that? Everything in our life can be guided.
Right. 100%.
Well, I want you to share like your personal story with this, like why you're doing this work, what it means to you, and how this guidance, tapping into the guidance in you, has assisted your own expansion.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's shocking to me that, like, you know, now periods are my favorite things to talk about in feminine cycles, because this was never on my trajectory. I was, you know, at 28 years old, had my own business in like film and television production, and worked all the time, worked crazy hours, never had time to take care of myself. And my periods got progressively worse and worse and worse and worse into my 30s. And so I went to see a doctor, and the doctor said, well, this is simple. Your body's punishing you for not having kids. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I didn't go get medical help for years continuing after this, because I thought, oh, these excruciating period pains and excruciating, then it was not just periods. Sometimes it just became whenever it wanted to come. It leaked into every part of my cycle. It's like, oh, I'm just being punished. Oh, I'm just being punished. Can you imagine? For a decade, thought that the pain I was in was because I deserved to be punished because I hadn't had children, because I was in a woman's body. I mean, I look back on that now and go, oh my gosh, how did I buy into that I deserve to be punished? And here I am practicing yoga and koya and positive affirmations and self-love. And it didn't even occur to me that I was thinking I deserved to be punished.
Yeah. But you know what? It's aligned with the core teaching that we get as women. Just being in a female body is in some way wrong.
Oh yeah.
And so how many women have had an abortion and then they believe I should be punished for the rest of my life, mm-hmm. or have had, a sexual experience that society says is wrong and they should be punished for the rest of their life. We buy it. We really do buy it because it's aligned with this core belief we have about our sexuality and how we should have done it. We should have done it the right way, and then we did it the wrong way. And so on some level, I shouldn't get to have true health and freedom.
Exactly. Well, even if you take most major religions, you know, a lot of us have been programmed to believe that periods and childbirth are punishment for original sin. They're punishment for being a woman. So this is very, very deep and is taught to us culturally and in our families as well as personally. So once I actually got a diagnosis from a doctor that I had stage 4 endometriosis, which is a really painful reproductive disease. I had ignored it or thought it was just normal for such a long time that it was stage 4 by the time I actually got diagnosed. And so my doctor's like, oh, well, that sucks. Nothing you can really do. This is chronic and incurable. So we'll just medicate you. And that's it. Okay, here you go. Here's a prescription for painkillers. Here you go. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's not how I believe my body communicates with me in my life. Like there has to be a reason. There has to be things for me to learn here. So, you are one of my best friends. I went through a really deep, sometimes dark journey of self-discovery and like digging up the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual roots of this disconnect in my body, this pain, this disease. And so basically I really got to a point where I could listen to my heart, my mind, and my womb, and found my own path of healing by turning up that voice of my womb and then trusting it, even when everyone was like, that's not the path, that's not the path. And just really diving deep into like, production was my job, but my other full-time job was my health. And I also, like, as I was expanding into this world of intense pain and discomfort, also expanding into this world of pleasure, of research, of knowing that I was connected. And ultimately, I'm proud to say now that I'm living pain-free. I'm married to my soulmate. I was 39 years old and had a baby unassisted, like no medical intervention, which they told me I would most likely never have without lots of medical intervention, and maybe not even then. So I'm so passionate about this work because I saw how it transformed my own life. And I feel like there's so much opportunity to share this with other women, regardless of what your period is like. Whether you have a great period or a really painful period like me, there's just so much that we should have been taught about being a woman. Really, like on our first plead, so much that we should have been taught that could have radically transformed our lives. And it's not too late to radically transform your life wherever you are, whatever age you are, whatever goals you have. So that's my story and why I'm so passionate.
Well, and there's so much more to that story than we would ever be able to express, like in an interview like this, with what happened in your relationship and the not really being able to have it all come together. And you guys had quite an extraordinary journey where it was like, there's no way this is going to work. And knowing like that you felt that connection and bond with Alex, but that like, nope, we just have to let this relationship go. And for years,
10 years. Yeah. For 10 years, I knew him. And I didn't realize there were so many blocks within myself until I really started to go deep into all the things that needed to be unblocked in myself, and basically what happens with endometriosis is like, your body literally becomes stuck. There was the blood from your uterus starts to take over and go into other organs and then can glue those organs together like glue. So literally my entire abdomen had become glued together. I was literally stuck. And so I knew I had to get unstuck in lots of other areas. And one of them was the way that I viewed this man who'd been showing up for me for 10 years. And it was like, I could see him. It was like I was in the same set of circumstances, but I could just see everything so much differently. And so I'm glad you brought the relationship piece up, because it's not like all of a sudden he just showed up. Like he was there the whole time. I couldn't make it work. And then it just like, I saw it differently and it was meant to be.
Well, and it was the way things weren't working were so, like anyone, I think so many women have these things happen in their lives and it's like, oh, well, there's just no possibility. There's no way I can have this work in these circumstances. And like the degree to which relationships won't work, but that it seems impossible. And not realizing that we have within us the ability to open to higher wisdom, to allow an energetic realignment within ourselves, where now possibilities that weren't even there before are effortlessly and easily there. And then, you guys have come together so beautifully, and he's so able to see you and really, really hold the space for you to be all that you are. And you have such a beautiful, beautiful relationship and marriage. And then, you know, I remember being at your wedding and I knew there was so much fertility. I was like, Jamie, my prayer when we did the prayer at your wedding was that you'll have a child. And it wasn't just, you know, to be fertile and have blessings coming. It was so clear, like, you are actually going to have a child. You're going to be pregnant. It's going to happen soon. It's going to happen. You know, you're not going to have to work at it. It was so clear. And then, like, boom, within that first year, here you have your little one. And there's so much that we can, if we allow a new alignment, we can open to possibilities that weren't there before. And like you said, the doctors told you, like, this is not possible for you. This can't happen. And all your organs were glued together, and having had miscarriages in the past, which, you know, was part of that equation, like, whoa, this is not coming together. So I think it's important for so many women to see, like, no matter how impossible the circumstances have been. And I'm also thinking of, like, young women in my life with, and my niece has had really, really severe PMS pain and depression and a lot of really hard things that she's dealt with, and also had that same teaching around, like, your period is such a bad, it's embarrassing. It's also embarrassing and shameful, not just bad and wrong, and you're going to have this big problem. And she asked me recently, like, well, does anyone not have pain with their period? And I was like, oh my head, like, what? Because all of the girls around her, it's like a universal thing. They're all suffering terribly and having pain, that they just think this is just normal.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I thought that too. But period pain is not normal. This is one of the things that I've learned. Period pain is not normal. PMS is not normal. These are signs that there's something going on. There's something amiss, whether it's, you know, a nutrient that you're not getting. I mean, it can be as simple as, like, you need more magnesium at one certain time of your cycle. It can be you maybe too stressed out, but these are immediate feedback loops for women that tells us what's going on inside of our body. So one of the things that we talk about in our course is exactly that, is that period pain and PMS are not normal. A second thing we talk about is that period blood, we're so conditioned to think it's so gross that a lot of us have never even looked at it. Period blood is incredibly informative. So let's say you actually look at your blood and it's dark red with big clots, kind of looks like a strawberry jam or something. That's a sign that you have too much estrogen. Long-term estrogen dominance can lead to chronic illnesses, including some cancers. So a lot of times women are like, oh my gosh, I got this terrible thing out of nowhere, like endometriosis, for example, or breast cancer. It's not true that it came out of nowhere. Had I known this information and been looking at my periods for this 10 years, I would have known that I was estrogen dominant and that something was out of whack. So you can look at your period and say, okay, is it really light pink? That's a progesterone imbalance. So one of the things I teach in the course is exactly how to become your own detective, so that you're actually looking at your blood and finding out, is it really as gross and as awful as you've been told? Is it disgusting? Or are you learning something about it? And then if you find out, okay, what's the color and consistency? What does that mean? How can I address it? What does it look like the next month? And so we have this amazing way to continue to stay in hormone balance and get immediate feedback as to what's going on without having to prick our fingers and, like, have a medical degree. It's incredible.
You know, and this is really important too to add at this point, where we have seen scientifically that just listening and connecting with the communication from the body, just that alone has a shift in your harmonic, brings you into a deeper state of harmony, decreases inflammation, decreases cortisol and stress hormones. Just being in a communication with your body, even if you have no idea what it means, just the observation of, oh, this is what my blood looks like, or being interested and curious in communication with your body. So, like, even if you're like, wow, I just gained 5 pounds, and you're feeling your body or looking at your body with a curiosity instead of with judgment and hatred, just that alone shifts what's happening inside you chemically. So it actually creates greater harmony and a rebalancing of, like, the hyperestrogen or not enough progesterone or whatever is going on. That just the awareness of it alone will shift what's going on in your hormones to a healthy, into a healthy space.
I'm so glad you said that, because that is one thing we talk about in the course, is that you can decrease your symptoms up to, I've seen women decrease their symptoms up to 75% by doing one thing. And that is, instead of popping a Tylenol and going through your day when you have menstrual cramps, to stop and go, what is it that you're trying to tell me? Can decrease their symptoms up to 75% by asking that one question and then giving their body whatever it says. So let's say you're having cramps of some sort and you're like, okay, what is it you're trying to tell me? I actually don't want to go to the Women's March. I actually want to stay in bed and drink tea. Okay. And decrease symptoms immediately. So it's exactly what you're saying. So I'm so glad you say that, because I mean, we're talking about even just watching this video right here, and you start to do that with your body, you can decrease your symptoms by a ton.
Yeah, it's fascinating how much medical research does document this, but then it's still not been incorporated into our mainstream approach of medicine yet. It's like still so fringe, but there's way ample amounts of research to show this dynamic of being aware of what's going on in your body, having healthy communication with your body. That alone makes it the greatest part of the shift. Because otherwise it can get a little like freaky, like, oh my God, I have too much estrogen. What should I do about that? I have to know, I have to figure it out. I have to eat the right foods or not eat the wrong foods, or what am I doing? And then I have to micromanage myself and control. And that is not what creates health. That's not going to contribute to health.
No, you're totally right. You're totally right. I'm glad you brought that up.
So, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So what would you want? Let's give them the link to the course, because I want people to have access to you. Jamie is at periodlove.com. I would emphatically invite everyone to subscribe to what she's sharing regularly if this conversation is of interest to you, because she shares a lot, imagery and information and inspiration to assist this awakening within your body in a really beautiful way. So just following her, materials would be really, really smart. And then the course is at periodlove.com. And there's a special gift if you use the code Dr. Kim Love. Will you show them the piece that you wear?
Yes. So if you use the code Dr. Kim Love, I'm sending you, this is pound jewelry. It's a pound pendulum. This is a carnelian. Carnelian is a really powerful crystal. It's known as the menstrual blood of the goddess Isis. But what I do is I wear this every single time that I bleed, and it's like my own secret way of reminding myself of my own power when I'm menstruating. So you'll only see me wearing this necklace when I'm menstruating, and it's my secret way of like outwardly expressing something, a really inward cycle. And so we talk about ways to ritualize menstruation, one of them being like having a power piece of jewelry that maybe you don't even tell anyone about, that it's your period power piece. But I'm going to send you a carnelian period power piece with a little write-up if you use Dr. Kim Love.
And I love the way that crystals, we now understand so much more of the harmonic crystals offer, where crystals actually absorb certain kinds of energy, and they also reflect out certain kinds of energy. If you're very energy sensitive, you're very aware of this and maybe already using crystals. But I think it's interesting for the medical community, because people are now beginning to see how this comes into play with the physical body, what it does to our electromagnetic fields, what it does to the electromagnetic field of the heart, which is a very dominant field that dictates our brain activity, hormone patterns. So it's kind of cool that you're beginning to use that to align with this wisdom. So that's really fun.
Yeah, awesome. I want to talk a little bit more about some of the other things that we discuss in the course. We talked about like becoming a period detective.
Yes, and I want you to talk also about like this, when we honor our cyclic nature, and kind of get into some of that as well.
Perfect.
Like the power of menstruation. When you just said that, I was like, the power of menstruation is something I think for a lot of people, it's like, what? Yes. Not only is this not a bad thing, but there's some power here.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Basically, if you take the cycle, think of the cycle as 28 days. That's the average. It could be 32 for you or more or less. But let's take an average menstrual cycle of 28 days. Day 1 is the first day that you bleed. And you typically bleed for about 6 or 7 days. That's your menstrual phase. Then you move in to the follicular phase, then the ovulatory phase, and the luteal phase. So there are 4 phases in your 28-day cycle. And basically, you can think about these internal cycles as having external characteristics. Like if you think about menstruation as being very similar to the winter, it can help to think about these phases differently. So menstruation is very similar to winter in that it's asking you to go inward, wants you to be cozy and warm. And also when you do that, when you listen to your body, and a lot of times this could be why you're having period pain, is your body's asking you to slow down and go inward. This is something our ancestors knew. They would gather in menstrual huts, not because it was disgusting, but because they were having all of these insights when they slowed down. What happens in your brain when you're menstruating is that the syntax in your right and left hemispheres of your brain fire equally. So when you slow down and you take a situation that maybe you have not been able to find an answer to, your emotional brain and your logical brain are firing equally. This is the only time they do that in your cycle. They're firing equally so that you can find emotionally sustainable, logical solutions to things happening in your life. So again, this is why ancestors would go to menstrual huts, because they could figure things out with ease, what was happening in their lives or their communities or their cultures. Yeah. And there's a Native American saying that says, if you first want to destroy a culture, destroy its moon lodge, because the collective ideas, visions, and dreams from menstruating women were considered so revered that they would then dictate what the entire tribe did, where they planted, where they moved, the things that they were, the rituals they were doing. So menstruation is like winter. It's asking you, it's begging you to slow down, to listen, so that you can get one of these superpowers, which is the ability to, come up with solutions for your family and your life. So then you move into the spring, which is the follicular phase. The spring is when your estrogen starts to peak. Your estrogen starts to slowly increase, and estrogen makes you more buoyant, a little bit more flirty. It makes you feel creative. It's fueling your life, your feminine life force. So it's a great time, your follicular phase, as soon as you're done bleeding, you're in that spring, that follicular phase. It's a great time to start new projects. It's a great time to maybe ask that cute guy out from the bakery. It's a great time to get a bikini wax because you're less sensitive emotionally and physically. So when you start to know these things, you can start to kind of plan your life around your phases. So what I love is that it's your most creative phase, actually. So it's an amazing time to start a new project or continue writing your book or do whatever, like really put your force into whatever you're creating. And then you move into your ovulatory phase, which of course is where you're ovulating. This is like the summer. It's where you're shining the brightest. It's where you're the most attractive to yourself and others because of pheromones, but also energetically. So this is the time to schedule your speaking engagements. This is the time to give that big speech. This is the time to ask your boss for that raise because you're one of your superpowers in the summer is you're the most easily communicative. You're able to communicate clearly, but also able to understand the points of view of others with more ease than any other phase of your cycle. So this is just one of the superpowers available in the summer. And then you move into the luteal phase, which is the most notorious phase. This is the PMS phase. This is the premenstrual phase. So we've also been taught to fear the premenstrual phase. It's like 50% of our month we've been taught to fear.
Yeah.
The premenstrual phase has so many gifts, but we've just been told that we're bitchy and erratic. Basically, what's happening is your body's again asking you slowly every day to retreat out of your summer self into your more autumn-like self, which is more of the cozy, quiet, internal time. And some of the amazing superpowers available in the luteal phase is your analytical brain is like way dialed up. So let's say you've been writing that book in your spring and summer. Now it's the best time to start editing your book. It's like nothing gets by you. This is why we get we get told that we're really kind of bitchy or nitpicky. It's because nothing gets by us. Our BS meter is way on high in our luteal phase. You can't lie to yourself and you can't lie to others in this phase. Your hormones are balanced in such a way that your brain is just seeing things that it didn't before. You're able to see danger more clearly in photos or in real life in your luteal phase. It's been proven that women can find hidden snakes in the grass in photos like 10 times more easily during the luteal phase than any other phase, because we're critical, but that can really help. That's a great time to organize your closets and organize your checkbook and, do some of these things that require a little bit more of an analytical brain. And then you go back to menstruation, which is, again, where you rest, receive, renew, let go, what's ready to be created the next cycle. So we are created, Kim, just like the seasons of the year, to be our most productive, our most creative. There has to be some times of rest, letting go, rejuvenation, starting new projects, full expression, and back again. But we're trying so hard to be linear beings because the world tells us that that's what we should be. We should be linear beings. That's the way to be. We are cyclical beings, and we're missing out on all of our superpowers because we're flatlining them, trying to be the same every day. And so in living in full embodiment of all of our expression is only going to benefit ourselves, our health, our families, our creative projects. And it's such an exciting way to live, and then start to see these patterns and move things around in your schedule. It's like, things become so much easier. It's like a bird can't fly if it can't put its wings up and down. Like, we have to ebb and flow as cyclical beings to fully give ourselves permission to live in our full expression. So we talk about that in the course.
It's profound how much, like, you can't overstate the value of winter and how much in our society that's been made wrong. Like, if you slow down 2%, you're lazy, you're unproductive. Like, it's this idea, like the linear and the masculine and the outer is the only way we can value, but that the feminine and the inner, there's nothing going on in there. Like, I just did a whole Mind Body Live broadcast on sleep and insomnia. And when I was asked to read into it, the biggest thing that I was shown was all the ways we make slowing down wrong. And that sleep is not only like, you should be able to survive on as little sleep as possible. Not only is it a wrongness, but it's an embarrassing, shameful. Like, if you've ever fallen asleep in class and then someone like knocks your arm and you like fall over, like, how embarrassing is it? Oh my God, you caught me falling asleep. So like slowing down, God forbid actually sleeping, but slowing down in any way is like the worst, biggest wrongness in this society. And so even for me, like someone who knows about these cycles, and I've learned so much from you, and understand about the winter and the value of going in and the value of, you got to be able to put your wings down in order to expand them to come up. Like, that's so obvious. And at the same time, I have to really work at letting myself shut down when I need to shut down, so that I get a full restoration of what I'm ready to go out and be in that cycle and go out and create. And being an unthinkably creative person, it's not easy. It's not ever been easy for me to let the slowing down happen, but it is the most essential component for me.
Yeah. And you know what? And the winter is the starting ground of this work. The way that you show up for your menstruation will dictate how the other 3 cycles go. And if you show up and rest the amount that you need to, you can be 3 times more productive in your spring, in your follicular phase. And so imagine, like, you're getting as much done in the month as you would if you're pushing and forcing. You're just doing it in alignment with your body and your energy and your hormones.
Yeah. And you know what else too? So many women, especially women that come to my work, there's so much energy they don't have access to because of that suppression. So they spend so much energy trying to fix their health, fix their body, eat the right foods, nurture their kids, help figure out, why is my kid having this and this and that problem, not realizing that they are, the lack of alignment in themselves is the foundation for all the things that are chaotic in their life. So now they're swept up in this chaotic, I can't stop, I have to do more, there's too much to do, I can't slow down, not realizing it's from their own self-suppression and self-denial, that they could allow that realignment and reboot
Mm-hmm.
Everything can come effortlessly.
And one of the things that women ask me all the time is, how do I teach my daughter to not hate her body as a woman? How do I teach my daughter to honor her periods? And the only way you can do that is to live that. So I say the best thing you can do for your daughter is to put a sign on your door that says, "Mommy's moon time." You know, don't disturb tonight after 7 p.m. Like, to embody what it looks like to rest, especially during your menstruation, will automatically teach the girls in your life, your nieces, your daughters, the girls around you, what it looks like to honor rejuvenation, rest, winter. So, you know, a lot of times when you're like, go, 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 how do I teach this to my daughter?
Yeah.
Not willing to teach it to yourself. It first starts.
Yeah.
It first starts with you as a mother or an aunt.
Yeah. Yeah. If we love our body, it's contagious.
Right. Right. And if you honor your cycles, then the girls in your life can't help but be curious. Actually, the men in your life can't help to be curious either. Talk about shame. Like, the reason men like to make so much fun, I think, of PMS and menstruation is because nobody likes to have a subject that they don't know anything about, but are shamed for asking about. Like, what I find is that most men in my life, when I've been approaching my own menstruation with curiosity and kindness, I find that the men in my life are so curious and kind about what's going on. And they actually have a safe space to say, well, I don't actually understand what's even happening in your body. I don't actually understand, you know, what this even means. And so one of the things we talk about in the course is how to track your cycles. Remember, we talked about those 4 seasons. I'll teach you how to actually like discover your own roadmap, your own unique code and ebbs and flows. And then how to invite your partner, whether that's a same-sex partner or a male partner, how to invite your partner into this, and how that can radically transform your intimacy through cycle tracking together. My husband, Alex, is in that lesson in the course with me, and we talk about how that's transformed our relationship, you know, to bring men into the conversation. Because I also find a lot of people who have really strong voices in the menstrual community are still saying, men this and men that, and men should this. It's not about anything other than a safe space for everyone to say, none of us have ever had a safe space to learn or ask questions or really get the whole story about women's cycles. So I like to include men in the conversation at the end. That's the very last module, because first it's all about, like I said, changing your own relationship. And then we talk about, how do we initiate our daughters? How do we include our men? That's one other thing we talk about. Another thing I want to point out that I think is different about this course is, I also talk a lot about the spiritual access points. We talk about the biology, the ancestry. We go into some of that, like 30,000 years of periods being revered that we don't talk about. So we talk a lot about the ancestry, and then we also talk about the spirituality, what is accessible to us, you know, with our connection to divinity through the access point of our cyclical nature.
Yeah, because it's like we've rewritten our history to reflect a very different understanding of our body and who we are and how we came to be here.
Exactly.
And there's so much more to the equation of who we really are.
Exactly.
And that has, you know, and I want to say also, from my standpoint as a doctor who's worked with so many women with chronic illness and autoimmune illness and chronic fibromyalgia, pain, fatigue, this is the number one most important thing that shifts that dynamic and opens the body to health, is this new way of connecting with what is, and being curious and observing and being aware of what's happening in my body in an open way, not a judgmental way with all these filters of, I should look like this, but now I look like this, or my body should function this way, and why do I need to function this way? I remember being young, like, I don't know, 6 years old, and praying to God, please make me a boy, please make me a boy, please make me a boy. I had already the awareness somewhere that my life was going to be harder being a woman in a male dominated society, or a society that values the linear and the predictable and the outer and the, you know, productivity. And I don't want to go into this being a girl thing, because I knew somehow there wasn't really space for me to be all of who I was. So, you know, thankfully that prayer didn't get answered. And, And here I am, like kind of one of the people pioneering that, exploring this and expressing this and being courageous enough to live my life fully. But I've definitely seen that this is one of the most powerful things we can do to shift what's happening when we have illness and imbalance and begin to open to letting the body heal.
Well, that makes me so sad to hear, because what you're saying is so systemic. I mean, the child I just had is a little girl. Like, I have a 12-year-old niece. And what's happening now is that ages 12 to 15, the number one cause of death for our girls is suicide. It's now replaced automobile accidents, and it's now suicide. And it's happening right at the time that our girls are reaching menarche. It's their first bleed. So this is a serious, serious issue that's coming to a head. Like, we need to change the way that we educate ourselves and educate our daughters about menstruation and what it means to be in the body of a girl turning into a woman, because there is this systemic hatred, disdain, wrongness that's wreaking havoc on our kids.
Yeah, and it can be perceived in a whole new way that helps you tune into your superpowers and be a light in your world, and have people actually come to you and say, I want to be more like you, because all women want to open to their own divinity, and to see another girl or another woman doing it is so inspiring. It's what we all want most of all. So I think this work that you're sharing is truly planet shifting. I know it is. It's shifting humanity, and it's one of the most important things that we can do is really begin to understand the power in our body. I'm so glad it's already been born. It's in the world. We can share it now. We can, and I also want to share one of these exercises in Jamie's course. And I think it was right up front in the first module. I did this, and it changed my life so profoundly. I was having so much challenge in my relationship with my mother. Well, just my whole life. That's been my most challenging relationship. And I was really aware of how much this was bothering me. So I woke up, and my daughter was in bed with me because she had come down, and she's cuddling with me in bed. And so waking up in the morning, realizing I was still carrying this, because it was kind of an acute flare of all the stuff going on with my mom. I had this awareness, Kim, it's time to let this go. You do not want this to affect your relationship with Gemma, and you don't want this to affect Gemma's relationship with her body. It's time to let this be in total harmony and let go of everything you've got on this. And I didn't know how. I really have tried my whole life to harmonize this relationship. And so I had already the information about this one Mayan spiritual bath. And I'd never heard of that before. I don't know how to do a Mayan spiritual bath. Okay. But my daughter is also very magical, and she loves fairies and crystals, and we love bath bombs. And so we're all into these kinds of things. And so we did exactly how you told me to do the bath. And she and I did it together. And it was so fun. And I specifically had, because we had these flowers, my husband had sent me dozens of roses. So we had these flowers, and we dried all the petals, and we put those in there. And when I let the water be infused with all that I was ready to release and all that was burdening me that I didn't know how to let go, everything that was affecting my relationship with my mother, my relationship with my daughter, my relationship with my body, and burdening me, I let it go. And I could feel the water taking it away. And I really wanted, I was letting all the water, when I drained it, carry that away, and just with gratitude, thank you, thank you, thank you. So it was a really beautiful experience. And then the next day I woke up, and I had it was such a catharsis, new insight, new awareness, whole new feeling of how I felt about my mother. It's like the charge just wasn't there anymore. It was really, really, really powerful. And for myself, having done a lot around this with journaling and all kinds of stuff for years, I know I was sort of set up to let it be even more powerful, that this was really, really profound. And it was one of the most powerful things I've ever done. It was absolutely. Wow. And I was running around for the rest of the week telling all my girlfriends, oh my gosh, I'm free. I freed myself. This is amazing.
Oh, Kim, I love that. I love that. Well, just like what I'm talking about with the spirituality is something that we talk about in the course, not just the biology and the ancestry, but there is an embodiment practice in every module of the course. So in module 1, you did the Mayan spiritual bath. It was so impactful for me as well in clearing endometriosis. What I used it to release was I drew out all my past sexual partners and let them go down the drain, just like to clear and reclaim my womb space as my own. So I love that you changed it to what you needed to draw out of that part of yourself, so that you could fully embody, you know, your own feelings in your womb and then watch them go down the drain. I love that. So this is, it's really set up to have these embodiment practices where we learn all this new information, but then we actually like apply it. What does it feel like in your body to apply this?
Yeah. Yeah. And the communication you have to your body to let your body know, hey, here's what I'd like to release. Your cells are listening. And that's like the foundation for all of my work. Like, how are we communicating with our cells, what we're asking our body, what we're ready to receive, what we're ready to embrace. And so, you know, your body knows how to do it. It's just a matter of tapping that and letting the wisdom of your body do what it's designed to do. So yeah. Bravo for everything you've created. And I love how you've done it in a really structured way. And I would say, honestly, to any woman who this resonates with, even just that one video right up front that you have is worth the price of admission. Absolutely life-changing, unquestioningly, and also essential. That if I have, you know, a young daughter, you know, I have a 6-year-old daughter. For anyone who has a young daughter, it is completely essential to repattern your relationship with your body and your understanding about your femininity and your cyclic nature within yourself. That's what the gift is to her. It's not like, oh, I need to, you know, I'm going to have her sit down and watch this program. That's great too. But even if you just had that first video, it will absolutely change the way you understand all of this. And I would say it's essential for every woman.
Thanks, Kim. I'm so glad it resonated so much with you. And, you know, it's been such a labor of love for me for such a long time. And the fact that it's getting great feedback and women are feeling changes in their lives and relationships is so exciting for me. So thank you so much.
Yes. All right. So the link again is periodlove.com. Yep. And to receive this special gift when you register for the In-Flow course, Dr. Kim Love is the code, Dr. Kim Love. So you can register for In-Flow. Jamie starts it. Each month is a new cycle of the moon, and you're learning about the cycle in your body along with that. And then I know there's a live component too, where you've got like a Facebook group where you're answering questions and things like that. Do you want to share anything else about how the course works?
Sure. So yes, every new moon, the course starts. And then a new module is unlocked every week, and we kind of go in line with the moon phases. And then every Friday I do a live Q&A on Facebook. We're in a private Facebook group where any questions that come up, any way you want to access me, I'm accessible to you. And you have membership for life to this Facebook group, and I'll be on every Friday to answer questions. And then there's, you know, lots of different sisters from all over the world, different age groups, different stories. And so we get to share in that platform. And then there's lessons, there's videos, and then there's embodiment practices every module. Plus there's some different bonuses where I do talk to someone about crystals for different phases in your menstruation or different phases of your cycle. I talk about using different tools, like there's a bonus for castor oil packs or a bonus for dry brushing, all these things that can help you get to hormone balance. There's also a bonus where I interview an essential oil educator about essential oils to help to deepen your menstruation practice. So there's lots of fun bonuses. I've got recipes and ideas and interviews and I can hear my daughter crying. Can you hear her screaming?
Perfect timing, Rhea. All right, beautiful. So Period Love, definitely subscribe if this is of interest to you and you're resonating with this message. And then the course can be found on her website. When you check out, you use Dr. Kim Love, so you receive your special gift. And yeah, I'll be sharing this with my entire community very, very enthusiastically. So thank you so, so much, Jamie, for all of this.
Thank you, sister. I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.